The Resistible Rise of Mussolini and Hitler. 24th of October 1922. Benito Mussolini reviews a rally of 40,000 black-shirted Italian fascists in Naples. He offers himself as the answer to Italy's political crisis. Either they give us the government, or we shall take it by marching on Rome. While Mussolini is rallying his supporters, there are already 3 columns of armed fascists, numbering over 14,000 within 30 miles of Rome. But these alone would never have been enough to launch a successful coup. 25th of October 1922. Mussolini travels to Milan. A fascist manifesto is issued which declares that their impending march on Rome will cut the Gordian knot and hand over to the king and the army a renewed Italy. 30th October 1922. King Victor Emmanuel III takes a totally unconstitutional step. Instead of mobilising the army against the fascists, he seeks to appease them by offering them cabinet posts in a coalition government. The king invites Mussolini to come to Rome for talks. Mussolini replies that he will only come if it is to form a government. Mussolini arrives in Rome to take control of both government and the country. Black shirts are brought by train to provide an impressive welcoming parade for Il Duce. Mussolini is joined by the king to inspect the black shirts as they march past. In early 1923, Mussolini sets up a fascist Grand Council to replace the functions of the parliamentary democracy. The black shirts are transformed into a militia for national security. November 1923. In Germany, Hitler and Göring's Munich-based putsch fails spectacularly. Hitler is sentenced to 3 years imprisonment, although this is later reduced to just 9 months. Whilst in prison, Hitler writes Mein Kampf. The book describes the world as engaged in a conflict to the death between the Nordic Aryan race and the Jews. Hitler describes the Jews as a virus dedicated to corrupting the purity of the Aryan race through interbreeding. He blames the Jews for the humiliation of Germany by the Treaty of Versailles, which followed the country's defeat in World War I, and for the rise of communism both in Russia and internationally. Hitler presents himself as the strong leader, the Führer, who will put an end to all this and unite pure Germans in a greater Germany free of Jews and communists. January 1925. In Italy, Mussolini declares that for the good of the country he is assuming dictatorial powers. Opposition politicians are arrested, and all national newspapers forcibly passed over to fascist control. Soon afterwards, all non-fascist political activity is prohibited, all non-fascist publications banned. The 1930 general election campaign in Germany is marred by increasingly violent attacks by the Nazis on their opponents. Nazi party representation in the German parliament, the Reichstag, rises from 12 to 107 MPs, while 77 communist MPs are also elected. March 1932. Adolf Hitler stands against von Hindenburg for the presidency of Germany. In the first round, Hitler receives 30% of the vote, rising to 37% in the second round. While Hitler's strong showing is not sufficient to prevent the successful re-election of von Hindenburg, it is more than enough to establish him amongst the general public as a potential leader in waiting. July 1932. In the German general election, the Nazis make their long-awaited breakthrough. With 230 MPs, the Nazis become the largest party, the Social Democrats are the second biggest party, the Communists the third. But no party will form a coalition with the Nazis, preventing them from forming a parliamentary majority and entering government. 30th of January 1933. President von Hindenburg seeks to appoint Hitler Chancellor or Prime Minister of Germany as a way out of this deadlock. 5th of March 1933. Parliament has remained unable to function without a governing coalition, and a new general election is held. This time the violence of the Nazis' attack on their opponents is significantly worse than those just a year earlier. Gangs of Hitler's brown shirts patrol the streets, breaking up any meetings of the opposition parties. Significantly, the police refuse to intervene to restore order and protect the democratic process. During the election campaign, the Reichstag is burnt down. Proclaiming the fire part of a communist plot, Hitler as Chancellor passes a decree suspending all rights of the individual and gives the government emergency powers. In spite of outlawing legitimate campaigning by their opponents, the Nazis still fail by a narrow margin to win an outright majority of MPs. Hitler immediately takes steps to remedy this. 23rd of March 1933. At the first session of the newly elected Reichstag, all 81 Communist MPs and 20 Social Democrat MPs are absent. They are either in hiding, fearing for their lives, or already in the hands of Hitler's police. With gangs of threatening brown shirts mustered outside the Reichstag, only the remaining Social Democrat MPs have the courage to vote against Hitler's Enabling Act, With the decree passed, Hitler is effectively an elected dictator. March 1933. The Nazis established their first concentration camp, organised by the leader of the SS, Heinrich Himmler, at Dachau, near Munich. Soon other camps were established across Germany. By the summer, as many as 30,000 Germans are being held without trial in these camps. On the 7th of April 1933, a law had been passed ordering the immediate and enforced retirement of all civil servants not of Aryan descent. In May 1933, all trade unions are banned. July 1933, the Nazi Party is declared the only legitimate political party in Germany, all others are banned. January 1934, the powers of Germany's once proudly independent regions, the Länder, are surrendered to central government under the control of the Nazis. September 1935, the Nazi government announces that all Jews are to be deprived of their German citizenship. Any sexual relationships between a Jew and a German citizen are henceforth declared illegal. The penalty where the Jew in question is male will be death. 1935, Mussolini uses a local dispute over grazing rights as a pretext for invading Abyssinia. This is the last region of Africa still available for colonisation, and Mussolini is determined to claim it for Italy. After a brutal campaign which included the Italian forces using poison gas, Mussolini proclaims the King of Italy, Emperor of Abyssinia. 13th of March 1938, Hitler invades Austria and declares Anschluss, annexation with Germany, and the imposition of Nazi rule on the Austrians. 29th of September 1938, the British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and Adolf Hitler signed the Munich Agreement, effectively ensuring Czechoslovakia in the near future will become a satellite state of Nazi Germany. Less than 6 months later, in March 1939, this is confirmed when Germany invades Czechoslovakia. 3rd of September, Germany invades Poland, Britain declares war on Germany, and the Second World War begins.